Well, welcome to the Seven Figure Builder Show. My name is Julie Baranek, founder of Seven Figure Builder, where we help high achieving business owners save time in their schedule every single week by implementing marketing automation to grow and scale their businesses to seven figures and beyond. I'm here today with my friend Sara. How are you today, Sara?
So good. Thank you. Really, really good. And thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. We've been meaning to do this for a while. So, for people that haven't had the pleasure to meet you yet, can you tell me a little bit about your business?
Absolutely. So I am Sara Wisniewski. I'm in the UK, as the accent probably gives away. I have had my own business since 2018, which we'll dive into my story a little bit more. But my business is to help female entrepreneurs to really get themselves out there and seen by those perfect people that they want to serve, because there's so much talent and so much knowledge, expertise that's being the world's best kept secret. So I help open that door to you have your skill, talent, do your thing, and I can help you reach those people that you want to serve and impact in your life.
I love it. And there are so many of us, we need that help along the way, just to have that mirror and, sounding board to bounce things off of. So that's incredible. What got you started in the business?
Well, it was one of those that you teach what you most need to learn. I spent 20 years in corporate world, loved it. I didn't have that burning desire. Like I hear some people say, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. That really wasn't me. I very much enjoyed the corporate life. It did all the things I wanted it to do until I had my family. And my two boys came along and everything melded. It was the same world, but it was like I was existing in it in a very different way as a mom and a career woman and all of the different roles that you perform. So I reached a crossroads in my career where I'd got the opportunity to progress and step up, which I knew meant even more of me to the career side of my life, as opposed to the other way, which is what I was starting to crave that little bit more. I was receiving updates from my children's nurseries in this little booklet that would come home and they'd say, oh, they did this today. And I'd go, oh, and I missed it, or I didn't see it. I got the worst ends of the day, the tired and the getting them up out of bed. So when I was offered this opportunity to progress, I not only said no, I also said, and actually I don't want to be here. So I went from seeing my career path mapped out, being part of a succession plan for what was a very, very great business. I loved working for them, to exiting the business within 48 hours and
Wow.
not having a plan. So I sat with that, as you can imagine, a little bit shell shocked. As the primary earner of the house as well, it was a requirement that I worked, but it was a desire that I worked. Don't get me wrong, this isn't I've got to earn. I genuinely knew I'd got a lot to give, but no idea how or where to channel it. So I took some time out. I explored what would work, what wouldn't, and how I could maybe integrate two parts of my life a little bit more. And a friend of mine in one of those pivotal conversations said to me, well, Sarah, have you thought about coaching? Now, at the time, I knew she was looking for a professional mentor. And I said to her, yeah, it sounds great, but I just can't afford that now. We're starting to dip into our reserves, and like, I don't know when the next paycheck's coming in. I think I should just work it out myself. And she went, no, not get one, be one. And suddenly all of these pieces of a jigsaw seemed to just fall into place. The big part of my role that I absolutely loved was the personal development of my team, helping really extract their core skill set and allow them to use that in the corporate world. So it did make sense for me. I opened my business and went, got nothing to lose, why not, let's do it. Opened my business and expected this beautiful line of people to form outside. And of course they didn't come, because that's not how it works, is it? So I knew I needed to understand very quickly how to get the people to me. I knew when they came I could help them. I knew that I could serve, but not necessarily to actually capture them. So I really made it my primary objective of all the investment I made was to understand the different approaches. There are lots and there is no one way. That's a bit of a mantra of mine. How could I connect with those people I want to serve and bring them towards me so they understand my ethos and how I can help them? So as I evolved and perfected my own method, I then pass that down the line and I continue with that. I make significant investments into my business, and I consider myself as like a processor. So I take it all in and then I mish it all together and mush it up and cut it out again. and then I pass it on as best that client in front of me needs it.
I love it. That must have been absolutely terrifying when you said to them, no, thank you, and goodbye, and had no plan.
Yeah, it does go down as one of those pivotal moments. But I having explored this and told my story a few times over the years, what had happened for me, and I guess it's brought that clarity by being able to relive it a few times. I'd evolved as a person the moment my children came along. It was like I'd entered that next chapter. And I truly believe we all have that path that is defined for us, your soul contract, your ultimate purpose, call it what you will. And when my boys came along, which wasn't an easy journey, actually, we struggled to conceive my first child, which started to add that question of priorities into my mind, that suddenly I'd gone from a very career-driven person to that's meaningless now because I can't have the one thing that I want more than anything else. And when he came along, it was such a blessing and such a relief that I believe from that moment on, my path changed and it altered. It went through that kink in the road. So I really think that conversation, which was my youngest was 4, but my oldest was 6, it was just me catching up with what I was supposed to do. So yes, it was scary on a kind of human experience, practical sense. We all have bills to pay, but it also felt right. And the overriding feeling I sensed was safety. I'm okay. I will be fine. I'm safe. And that was more than just, oh, I'm resourceful enough, I can go and get a job in a supermarket. It was more than that. It was just, this is right. This feels, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know it's right. And that's happened again in my life as well. My dad, the boy's dad and me separated. And again, it wasn't scary. It wasn't overly emotional. It was one of those, this has to happen. And I believe it happened a long time ago, but we have to catch that up now. And we're best of friends. We get on better now than we ever did. We are absolutely co-parent, and the boys get this beautiful balance of mum time and dad time, but we're meant for different things now. So it's that resistance, I think, can cause us stress, that we push on with something that just doesn't feel right. And like wearing a new pair of shoes in, you can go so far and great, they can become comfortable, but if they continue to be uncomfortable, they're just uncomfortable, and you need direction.
Yeah, and I think those challenging situations really define who we are and who we become. I know I've been through them myself as well, been through divorce, been through lots of challenges, which have, in the moment, they feel just overwhelming, terrifying. You don't know what you're going to do next. But in the hindsight, it's totally, been those pivotal moments that really helped shape my personality, shape the strength of who I am and where I go forward. And it just helps us become who we are meant to be,
Yeah, we are. And life has a brilliant way of throwing variety at us. And I don't think it will present us with anything that we can't cope with. It may not feel like that at the moment. And in every situation, there is a lesson for us. And again, that sounds so annoying for somebody to say that to you when you're in that moment. Yeah. But we're not being, I don't believe this, we're being tested, we're being pushed. We're being sent something we need to learn and something that we need to move on from, or things will align when we are truly on that path. It's when we try and take ourselves off and become resistant. And as I say, it's just uncomfortable.
Yeah. So as a mother, how do you best juggle all of life's responsibilities and a, single mom and all of those challenges? What do you find has worked the best for you?
Prioritizing me, actually. And I never, ever did that. I was last. The best example I have of that was when we all went on holiday as a family, which we used to do regularly. And I would do all of the work, all for the holiday. So I'd be booking it, I'd be arranging the dog care, the house care, all the things, making sure that subscriptions were stopped, all the stuff.
Right.
The all the suitcases, all me. And I remember this one particular holiday, I finally managed to close my emails off, so I was still in that corporate role then. Put the out of office on and gone, oh right. And I was going in the bath and painting my toenails at like 3 a.m. in the morning for a flight that was then going to be like 7 a.m.
Mhm.
And I remember having that moment of going, what are you doing? Like, this is the only time you've given yourself, when you should be frankly asleep, to prepare yourself and feel good about going to put a pair of flip-flops on and a bathing suit. And I wasn't able to bring in the shifts in my life at that time to say, this isn't right and I need, time, I'm doing something for myself. There just wasn't the time or space, and there wasn't the will either. So now, and this is a big, big mantra of mine again, freedom, 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 freedom. I get to choose. So as we started to record, I said to you, for me, this is 12 noon. I've just turned my computer on for the day. And I get to choose that now. There's nobody knocking on my door and saying, where are you? What are you doing? And by allowing me the time that I need, allows me to be much more present for my children. I'm not resenting them, because that's a real emotion that we don't want to feel towards our children. But that is what comes up in those snappy little moments when they're asking for another piece of us, and. They're not doing that to trigger us, but if it does, there's something else going on for us. So allowing my needs to be met, which I'm responsible for, allows me then to be present for them. And when I can't, or I need something, I mean, they are obviously older now, they're 9 and 11, so I'm able to say to them, no, mommy needs half an hour, or I can't be disturbed for the next 20 minutes, and they're okay with that. It's different when they're really small, but
Right.
having those, they are boundaries, I guess, and reinforcing them. I think that's healthy for them to understand that I have them and I want them to have them. So if they don't want to be disturbed for a few minutes, then fine, that's their boundary too. So modeling that behavior for them, I think, is really important. And asking for help, that's the other one, which super independent, stubborn, I shall jolly well do this myself. Allowing myself to see that actually investing in myself, investing in people who've got the result that I'm working towards, they have knowledge that I don't have, that investment piece of, don't wait, like we just don't know what's around the corner, get it done. If there's somebody that's done it quicker, faster, more efficiently, then try and get the best route to it. So that help for me in my life includes someone helping me with the house and helping me sort the garden, doing the stuff that I can be doing different things and someone else can be helping me. But that takes a big mind shift of, I don't have to be Superwoman doing all the things all the time.
Yeah, it does. And I think as a mother, it's so easy to put yourself at the bottom of the list that we serve, our partner, our children, our friends, our business, everybody else. And then you are last. And I'll speak for myself. I do it all the time too. But we have to put ourselves much higher on that list, because if we're not, able to give because we're empty and depleted, we can't help anybody else. Right. So it is so very important to have that self-care, to make yourself a priority, to be able to help everybody else around you, right, and be more effective.
Yeah, and it shows in the energy that you turn up with in everything you
Mhm.
do. I spend part of my time, I truly believe, running my business. I'm a business owner. I serve within my business to serve my clients. I'm a mum. I'm a fitness instructor. I have so many different hats, and all of them take a different level of energy, but they all need me to be fully present and show up as the best version of myself. So whether it's time invested to go to the gym to make sure I'm physically fit and well and able to teach that class, or whether it's time learning and evolving my skill set and practicing, implementing a particular skill, that is time well spent, because it repays itself further down the line.
Yeah. And you've mentioned a few of them already, but what would you say is your proudest achievement?
Being able to sit here now with the comfort that financially we're covered. I can work a fraction of the time that I used to work. I have a fantastic relationship with the boy's father. And all of those huge compartments in my life are good. I don't own an island or a jet plane yet, but that's never really been on my agenda. And again, I wasn't listening to that voice. There's a particular part of my commute when I would go to an office that was right next to some fields, and it was just always a sticky part of the motorway, which sort of, the traffic always slowed down, and I would always look across at this field, and there was guaranteed someone walking their dog in that field. So I could see this little tiny person, and I'd look up at them and think, I wish that was me. Like,
Oh,
I'd love to be, rather than being in this really uncomfortable suit and having like a full face of makeup on and going to do something which was, yes, rewarding and it paid the bills and all of those things, but just I would look and go, oh, I'd love to do that. How, like, what is their story? And I would sit and ponder it for the rest of the journey. How are they managing to achieve that? That's me now. That's me. Walk my children to school, no breakfast club, come home, choose to do some exercise, walk my dogs when it's not raining rather than when I have to walk them. And that for me, that's me. Like, yes, there's always more, and we should be thriving and evolving and changing. But I think building the life that I have now with the balance and the freedom, I couldn't be prouder.
yeah, that's priceless. And having that balance and being able to feel comfortable in your day and not feeling like you're running a rat race is absolutely priceless.
Yeah, yeah, and I truly believe that that will serve me for the rest of my life. Yeah, I'm still in contact with lots of lifelong friends who are still in that business, and it only ever gets worse. And then as you get older, it gets harder. The stress and the pressure isn't as easy to reset. The demands on any business get greater, and everybody feels that squeeze, and then someone else leaves and they don't replace them, so they take on more work. And it just, I hear it and I just think, and yet you've got no choice, unless you put your hand up and say, I'm getting off this hamster wheel. I get to choose. I have been able to get my client base to a point where I can say, yeah, I can't take another one on until this point in time, or actually, if we can work out time zones that you'd be able to have your one-to-ones, then I can take it. But if you're going to be looking for my time, then it's full. I choose that, and that's the beauty, that whether I want to take December off or August off to be with my children, all down to me.
Yeah, I think that's so empowering, especially the ability to say no. It can be very empowering.
Yeah, it can. And I didn't. I've worked with people who weren't a good match for me, either side. I've said yes to stuff just to think, well, you never know, And I speak to clients all the time that do the same thing, particularly where perhaps it's a referral based business and you're never quite sure where that next person's coming along, and they end up yes, and creating a very bespoke offer for one particular person, watering down their message, watering down their offer, because they just don't know how to get that stability and that predictability. So yeah, I guess it's what helps you to sleep at night.
Yeah, agreed. So, in your opinion, why do you think most people struggle to get clients?
Oh, it's so multifaceted, and I think at times it can be not seeing the whole picture. So if you considered it like a prism or like a diamond, that there are lots of different faces to it, which include things like being clear on who you want to serve, how you want to help that person to get the result, the methodology that you're going to use, whether or not you've done it yourself and you've got those results, so you can talk about that authentically, genuinely. And then you've got that layer of, well, it's all about you as well. What belief system do you come from in terms of your capability, your confidence in being able to help those people when they come, your genuine desire to want to serve them. I worked with someone once who we got the most amazing strategy mapped, and she was really happy that she knew it suited her. She loved the idea of the way that she was going to show up and promote. She couldn't get on with doing it, and it was only through a little bit more digging that we eventually came up with, she was actually scared to get clients because she wasn't totally in her power of, when they came, well, what if I can't help them? And that was paralyzing her at that front end. So a long answer to a very great question. I don't think there is one way. I think we need to work on all of those facets at any one time. So yes, we need a system. Yes, we need a client journey mapped out that we can know how to connect, that our messaging resonates, that we show up and we share that, but that we're also doing that confidence work for ourselves and knowing that we're capable, we have the power. If not, then we are still working on ourselves, but not, again, not to the detriment of the other side. So lots of amazingly talented people come to me, and they come on the Zoom and they've got all these pictures of certificates behind them, and they're really super proud of all their academic achievements and how qualified they are. But that's preventing them from getting themselves out there. So all those facets need to come together, but they don't need to be perfect on any particular one, because one on its own won't do it. There isn't one pill, there isn't one answer. And your answer to your business model, Julie, will be different to mine. So hence why I say there is no one way. I don't advocate, here's how I did it, which I know lots do. Repeat, you put your name here and replace this part and off you go. That won't work, because it's your personality versus mine versus the next and the next. It's finding your way.
Yeah, and the mindset is so critical. I've found one of the most important pieces is getting out of your own way. And I will speak for myself that that's been so important for me. And I've seen in other people that you can just end up self-sabotaging because you're afraid of whatever it is, whatever that outcome is, putting yourself out there, being transparent, just being vulnerable with people that you don't know, with the, potential risk or potential reward you don't really know. But just getting out of your own way and just going out and doing it and being authentically you, and, the right people will find you.
Yeah, and doing that on the daily basis as well. Anyone that says, oh, well, I work on this and I've done the mindset, or I did that piece of work that I was shown to how to switch my mindset around. I did it. Okay, but then when you got up the next day, like it comes up for all sorts of reasons that we, it's like that's, well, it is a safety mechanism, and I picture them like bungee cords that if you're trying to sort of run and you've got something attached to you, that it'll just keep every now and again just giving you a little tug, and it's there for a reason. And it's not the whole fear piece. People talk about it being a bad thing, and we need to heal all these traumas and do all of this inner work to soothe all that. Well, yes and no, because we need to soothe what's restricting us and holding us back, but actually it served a purpose when it was there, so that we were kept safe and felt a lack of fear rather than pushed ourselves towards the fear. I don't always believe in feel the fear and do it anyway, because that's kind of like a false confidence, and that'll only get you so far. It will be exhausting and you won't maintain it. Working through those parts that are creating that, like that client who knew all the steps she wanted to take, but actually unpicking a little piece of that. What if somebody comes and I can't get them? But yeah, well, what if they do and you can? We so often go to the negative side of,
Right.
well, what if it doesn't work out? Well, what if it does? Because sometimes that can be just as restricting as well.
Yeah, totally. So as you're working with people in their marketing, what role do you feel AI is going to play? And have you tried out the whole ChatGPT thing? What is your take on all of this?
It's going to have its place, there's no doubt. Watching my children grow up and come through the education system at the moment, I feel it really is so behind. They're being taught to write in a certain way, and I think you just won't write, will you? When you're older, you'll be voice dictating, and the world evolves, the world moves on. AI is here to stay. There's no point in resisting it. And as with everything, it will have its purpose and it will be useful to us, used in the right context. I don't believe until we end up having relationships with robots, we can't replace that human contact. Yeah. We just can't. It is immeasurable the way that there is a connection between two people or one person in a room of people. You can't replace that. It's a vibration. It is, it's scientifically proved that our frequencies. So yes, use where you really, really feel you need to produce the volume that maybe you can't, but quality is always better than quantity. So if you're talking about using AI to help you create some content, Well, create less and create better. Get better at doing those things. And then if you really want to top it up, then fine, use it. Same as a system. You don't need a system and huge amounts of automation until you've got that volume in your business.
Right.
I'm a huge believer in technology is that enabler, but it shouldn't be what you hang everything on and get super distracted. And I am absolutely an advocate, and I help my clients implement technology, but not until they need it, because it's another procrastination tool. Otherwise, it's another distraction. So let's use it where it can help us. But I personally don't want to interact with something that isn't a real person. And you're probably the same as me. You get these messages that drop into your inbox and you think, is this a person I'm replying to? I don't know.
Yeah.
And, you know, if we've got that fear around a genuine connection, we're going to build walls, and we're going to end up nervous about having these personal interactions because we won't be used to it. So allowing it to have its place appropriately, fine. I'm all for it. I'm not going to fight the wave of an evolution, but let's not replace personal contact, please.
I totally agree. I think we will end up becoming even more sensitive to personal interaction and realness of a human. I think about, the automated phone calls. Like at first, they were so sketchy and so mechanical, and, our radar was up very high of like, okay, forget it. This is just a machine. I'm going to hang up. But as that technology has gotten more and more sophisticated, it's hard to be able to tell if you're talking to a person or not. And I see the same thing with content as, we'll get more and more skeptical, sensitive of, is this a real person? And the more you have that human touch, the personalization, the connection with that person, I think the more it resonates with us rather than just, mechanical volume. Like you mentioned, the volume is helpful to some extent, but if you're just saying a lot of noise and just saying it louder and having the wrong message, or you're not connecting with somebody, you end up just doing more damage than than having any benefit.
You do. Yeah, you do. And again, it will depend on the business model as well. All the people that I work with have a personality-based business, and the key's in the name. It is your personality. Yes, it's presented in a certain way, but it's all about you. And that's what people need to buy into to be able to then see themselves gaining that same benefit and that transformation, the result that you help them with. We know that knowledge is not the piece that people buy. Knowledge can be found, sought through so many different ways. You could literally Google everything in life now, can't you? So actually what people will be buying is that human connection, will be that personality. And I've worked with clients before who have been left very frustrated by that they thought they're buying into a particular personality, a particular coach, and when they get into the program, they have no access to that person. It's a team, it's very hands off, or they get, almost a helicopter view. They fly in, do one or two things for them briefly, and then they're gone again. And they've been left feeling shortchanged because that isn't the perception that they've had. So yeah, it will come. I mean, I on a very basic level, I see it at the gym. The class I teach has a virtual equivalent to it. So people can arrive, there's a big screen, they have the same music. That virtual class will teach and present the same tracks in the same way that I will, because that's how we're trained, so that it replicates. And there's maybe one or two people go to those virtuals, and I'll get 30 people in the room for my classes. It's just different.
Yeah.
It's just different.
And there's different motivation there.
Yeah. And well, from a fitness perspective, I worry about the safety, because I can correct and help someone that I'm looking at, as opposed to the virtual. You don't know what you're doing. So yeah, it's just, it is going to happen. And things have, as I say, they should be automated where we're wasting someone's time with that repetition, right, but not where you want your personality to start to be on it. Have you tried the avatar app?
I have not. No. And it's funny, I'm very techie and I love automation. I love being able to free up my time and my clients' time with automation, but I have a love-hate relationship with it. Like there's only so much that I will do and try, and I use it I use it where I need to, where I can still maintain that personal connection. So I haven't done any of the AI. I see the ads all the time of, just type in your message and you'll have somebody talking and it's so realistic. And I haven't touched any of it yet, but
I did the picture, so the just 2D pics that you could upload yourself, and some of them were amazing, really good, and I did it just before Christmas, so I got some great sort of wintry shots with me in a Santa hat, and I used a couple of them over Christmas, but some of them were so bad, like I had an eye on my forehead and an eye on my cheek, and it just didn't, frightening the way that it but I shared them with my family as well, and my mom showed me a picture of her as a child with a very similar haircut that this avatar had given me, and the similarities were amazing. So obviously the key points of whatever your features are on your face, it had pulled, and when you added the haircut as well, I literally looked like a 7-year-old version of my mom.
Wow,
really weird.
That is crazy. Well, and actually, to that point, so I don't use any of them because I think, not to sound too crazy, but I think about where the data is going. Like, in the past and in life in general, we have proof of where we've been, what we're doing, and videos, photographs are all that proof, right? You see a picture of somebody, see a video of somebody, and they were there, obviously, because we have record of it. And with this AI, you can generate something with your face that looks just like you. And I always think about, okay, it's a lot of fun when things are always fun and happy, but the way that this data can be used, to me, is frightening. So that's kind of where my brain goes, thinking, worst case scenario, of course. But it's something I think we should be way more cognizant of, and not to be critical of using the apps, but I think it's really important that we think about this stuff and where it is being used and how it could be used.
Yeah, you're right, because as much as it comes through as a development to be used for the positive, there is always the equivalent who find ways to use it for not good means as well. And having been hacked twice between Christmas and New Year into my social media accounts.
Oh my goodness.
I honestly ended up feeling really violated, and I fixed it really quite quickly through the various additional security measures I'd got in there, but it just felt really icky that someone had been in, and on Facebook they went in and created a dating profile for me. I didn't even know this was a thing within the app. I'd never even seen it before. So I ended up really overanalyzing it in my mind, thinking, what was the long game plan for that? Because it always tends to be financial, doesn't it?
Right.
Motivation, but I don't know whether they were going to try and bribe somebody. That I don't know, no idea. But that's what they did on Facebook. But then Instagram was a Forex. They changed my profile to and I also trade in Forex, which again is just incongruous to everything that I've ever posted on there. But it is for all the positive uses. Sadly, there is still the risk side of it as well, and I look at the way that my children are using technology now, and the way that it's normal life to them, isn't it? Everything, and they pick it up so super quickly, and at such a young age as well, that they don't necessarily have that full moral compass yet to make those informed decisions. And when people can pass things off which are so believable, then it's easy to see how people can be duped into all sorts of things.
Yeah, it is. I know it'll be very interesting to see how this all plays out over the next 5, 10, 50 years, and what things look like, and think about how much they've changed over the past 50 years, and then how quickly it changes over the past 5 years, right?
Yeah, and it is that constant speed. I ended up having a conversation with my oldest about tea bags the other day, and he said to me, when do you think tea bags were invented? And I said, well, my grandparents very much were loose tea in a teapot with a strainer. I remember watching it, fascinated as a child. So I said, I would imagine it's one of those things that it'd been around a long time. And then when it first came into more mainstream, it was really expensive. So only certain people would buy a tea bag. Everyone else was still having loose tea. So we ended up Googling it, of course. The tea bag was first in some sort of circulation in 1908.
Okay.
Which really led us on to that, exactly that conversation, saying, okay, so if you invented something in 1908 in wherever it was invented, how long would it take to get around the planet? Like forever, wouldn't it? So
Right.
I genuinely think that it was probably the 70s or 80s when tea bags were much more readily used. And we have a very famous, now not appropriate, brand of tea in, I love this tangent we're going off on, where they use monkeys. They were having a monkeys tea party, and it was very, and I remember that as a child. So 70s and 80s would have been the real prolific, everybody moved away from loose tea into tea bags. Very British conversation as well.
I love it.
Now, of course, if you invented something which was you uncovered this thing which was going to revolutionize the way that we all did something we did every day, it would be on YouTube, it would be on social media, it would be from me in the UK to Australia within seconds, as opposed to decades.
Right.
And yeah, it is. It's that just constant speed of things come and then they go really quick because it burns itself out. It's like a trend and oof, it's gone. And do you remember that? No, it was a moment, it was a flash. So we have to be aware of that. And that's the world that we do operate in. But choosing what your core values are, I think, in this is really important. That what do you stand for? And what do you stand against? You know, are you willing to go there? Or are you not willing to go there? Where's your line? Because if we're constantly being pulled from trend to trend to trend to trend, we're not ever building our own structure and framework of how we're going to operate. And if we're tested and sort of push from one side to the other, where do we draw that line and say, I'll use that to that degree, but I won't go there with it? We all have to be clear on those.
Yeah, yeah, agree 100%. It's something that my husband and I are so big on with our kids, of helping them understand why they believe what they believe. We tell them we don't want you to be carbon copies of us. Like, we want you to have your own value system, but we want you to understand why you stand for that. So we push them, like when they have a stance on something, it's like, okay, well, tell me why, or have you thought about this? Or, making sure, A, it's factual, but B, that they understand why they're standing on that, and that it becomes a part of who they are, rather than just waving in the wind and, just going for whatever somebody else allowed us.
Yeah. And understanding that you've got the true and full breadth of the picture as well. I mean, you're no different than we are in terms of the way that the news is reported. It's got a very clear bias. So you can't believe anything at face value, can you? That's where all sorts of things become inbuilt in society. So like you say, it's questioning, well, yes, that appears to be the fact as it's reported there, but actually what happened there, or how is that part of the bigger picture? I think you're right. It's really getting to that, what's beneath, and therefore how do I feel about that? And it's good to understand whether you do or don't, but it's okay to not have an opinion as well. I feel like I tread a very middle of the road. Like, not a lot really gets my go, but when it does, I am quite, so kids, animals, that will always trigger me.
Right.
But I'm a bit of a let live and let live until it's very much personally affecting me. Whereas some people you hear, really fired up about the most simple of things. I think that's exhausting as well.
It is. It's exhausting on a daily basis to get that riled up.
Probably, yeah. No.
So looking forward to the year ahead for your business, what can people expect from you next?
Stability, I think. As I said before, I don't have huge aspirations to build a mansion and own an island. It's really allowing me to serve more now, and tweak and perfect the system so it gets a little bit easier for people to find me. I'm really keen to step into my speaker role a lot more this year. I have been challenged to label myself as a speaker, which it's one of those where it depends who asks me. I was asked by somebody who speaks on international stages, but gets paid to speak now, and has built a business through speaking. When she asked me, are you a speaker? I said, no, definitely not.
That's the wrong answer.
That is the right answer. But it's that comparative thing, isn't it? Whereas if someone in the street had said, well, are you a speaker? Well, yeah, because I regularly present to a room of people doing a fitness class. I do Facebook Lives all the time, things like this. So yes, I am. So I think leaning into that and getting out into the world a little bit more, sharing that message, getting over I'm going to have to put a pair of proper shoes on.
But you chose to put them on. That's the difference.
Yeah. I was on my way to a school meeting and I looked down at my tidy trainers, my kind of for best trainers. And I looked down at them and sort of smiled to myself and thought, I think that will be my life rule, that I won't go anywhere that doesn't, or it's not going to be acceptable for me to wear a tidy pair of trainers. I've done all that. I've done all the corporate suit, uncomfortable shoe thing. I'm done with that. So yeah, I think more of the same, and more ease. So, being able to leverage the time and effort principle of just working a few hours a day is where really I want to be.
That's pretty amazing. And where can people find you and become part of your program?
So the best way to connect initially is through Facebook and a Facebook group that I have. I'm banging on the maximum of my connections on Facebook. So new connections that come my way, I'm tending to introduce them to my group. There's loads of content in there that I'm regularly sharing as my role as a speaker. So yeah, regular free trainings, and there's lots of information about how you can work with me in there, or you can find me on my website, which is simply my name, sarawisniewski.co.uk. So lots and lots of information there, and there's availability for wherever you are in your journey and where you're looking to get to. So you can work intensively with me for a longer period of time, one-to-one. You can do shorter, I call them my toe dipper. So dip your toe in, let's find out about one another. Can we help each other before you move into the longer? And we do everything from simply coaching alone, allowing you to get to your own solutions, to some done for you options as well, where if tech isn't your bag, obviously yours is, but if tech isn't your bag and you just want to do what you're good at, right, then we can support with elements of that as well, as long as we feel that that's going to enhance your business.
Love it. And I'll have all the links below so you can click on them and check out Sara. So if you had the attention of the world for 5 minutes, what would you say?
Don't do what you think you're supposed to do. Do what you feel called, because that is your purpose. That's the route that you are meant to follow. We are all here for a reason. We all have a message. We all have a skill, and we complement one another brilliantly with that varying degree of skill sets. It's where we squash ourselves into a role, something that doesn't feel like it fits. That's where we're not leaning. We're all born with a talent. We're all born with something that we're good at, and allowing ourselves to live that and be that person, as scary as it might seem to make that change. Once you do, it's just life just fits in around you, and it feels so different.
I love it. That's so powerful. Awesome. Well, thank you, Sara. Again, I'll have all the links below so you can track Sara down and become part of her program. And you can hit me up at sevenfigurebuilder.com, and we will see you in the next episode.